My name is Rachel Carter, and the day my mother made my daughter cry was the day she lost everything she thought she could control. Even now, months later, I can still hear Lily's voice. Small, broken, confused. Mom, why doesn't Grandma want me there? Some questions stay with you forever. That was one of them. Lily was 11 years old. She loved drawing animals, collecting seashells, and making friendship bracelets for everyone she cared about. She was kind to strangers, polite to adults, and somehow still believed that family always loved each other. I used to believe that too. Then, my mother proved us both wrong. It started 3 days before Mother's Day. I was standing in the kitchen making breakfast while Lily worked on a handmade card for my mom. Pink paper covered the table. Markers were scattered everywhere. She had spent nearly 2 hours decorating it. Across the front, she had carefully written, "To the best grandma ever." Looking back, that part hurts the most. My phone rang. Mom. I answered without thinking. At first, the conversation seemed normal. We discussed restaurant reservations, guest lists, dinner times. Then her voice changed, the way it always did before she said something cruel. Rachel, I think it would be better if Lily stayed home. I laughed. Honestly, I thought she was joking. She's coming with me. Mom sighed. No, I don't think so. The room suddenly felt colder. What are you talking about? She's become difficult lately. I stared at the wall, trying to process what I was hearing. She's a child. She ruins the atmosphere. The words hit me like a slap. Before I could respond, Lily looked up. Children notice everything, especially when adults think they don't. What's wrong? She asked. I opened my mouth, but my mother answered first. Well, sweetheart, Grandma just thinks this dinner should... After I ended the call, Lily quietly folded the card she had spent all morning making. She didn't tear it up. She didn't throw it away. She simply folded it in half and slid it underneath a stack of school books. That somehow hurt even more. Children have a way of hiding pain that makes it impossible to ignore. For the rest of the day, she barely spoke. She smiled when I talked to her, pretended she was fine, but I could see the sadness sitting behind her eyes. And every time I looked at her, my anger grew. Not because my mother excluded her, because this wasn't the first time. It was simply the first time Lily was old enough to understand what was happening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat alone in my office thinking about the last 15 years, thinking about every sacrifice I had made for my family, every emergency I had solved, every bill I had paid, every crisis I had rescued them from. The more I thought about it, the more I realized something uncomfortable. They didn't appreciate me. They expected me. There was a difference. My father had borrowed money so many times that I stopped keeping count years ago. My younger brother used one of my credit cards for temporary emergencies. Those emergencies somehow never ended. My mother regularly used my accounts to pay deposits for family vacations before asking permission. And every time I tried setting boundaries, I was accused of being selfish. Family helps family. That was always her favorite phrase. Funny how it only worked in one direction. 3 days later, Mother's Day arrived. The family gathered at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, a place I usually paid for. By noon, my phone was already filled with messages. Pictures of decorated tables, photos of champagne glasses, videos of relatives laughing. Everyone looked happy. Nobody asked where Lily was. Nobody cared. That told me everything I needed to know. I sat in my home office, opened my laptop, logged into my banking accounts. Then I began removing names, one after another. No hesitation. My mother? Removed. My father? Removed. My brother? Removed. My aunt? Removed. Every authorized user, every linked card, every shared account, every emergency payment method.
The conversation ended with my mother hanging up on me. Not because she had won, because she hadn't. For the first time in her life, she realized she couldn't control the outcome, and that terrified her. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The next morning, my phone started ringing before I was even out of bed. First came my father, then my brother, then 3 relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, one after another. Everyone suddenly had advice. Everyone suddenly cared about family unity. But nobody mentioned Lily. Nobody asked how she felt. Nobody questioned why an 11-year-old girl had been excluded from a family celebration. Apparently, her pain wasn't important. Only the restaurant bill was. By noon, my social media feeds were flooded with passive-aggressive posts. My cousin shared a quote about forgiveness. My aunt posted something about loyalty. My brother uploaded a photo from the restaurant with the caption, "Some people destroy families over nothing." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Nothing? They called my daughter's tears nothing. That was when I stopped feeling guilty. Completely. Because guilt only exists when you've done something wrong. And I hadn't. That afternoon, Lily came home from a friend's house. She immediately noticed something was bothering me. "Are they still angry?" she asked. I nodded. A little. She sat beside me on the couch. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she surprised me. "Mom?" "Yeah?" "If Grandma doesn't like me, that's okay." My heart shattered. Children shouldn't learn acceptance through rejection. Children shouldn't have to convince themselves they're okay with being unwanted. I pulled her into a hug. "No, sweetheart." "What?" "It's not okay." She looked confused, so I explained. "People who love you don't make you earn a place at the table." She stared at me, listening carefully. "They don't make you feel small." Her eyes started watering. "They don't decide your value based on convenience." A tear rolled down her cheek. I wiped it away immediately. Most importantly, I squeezed her hand. Anyone who treats you that way loses the privilege of being close to you. For the first time since Mother's Day, Lily smiled. A real smile, not a forced one. I looked at my mother standing in the lobby and suddenly saw her for exactly who she was. Not a grieving grandmother. Not a misunderstood parent. A woman who had spent decades treating relationships like transactions. If people were useful, she kept them close. If they stopped being useful, she punished them. And now that the money was gone, she was panicking. "Rachel, please," she said, lowering her voice. "We need to talk privately." "No." Her eyes widened. The words seemed to shock her. Because growing up, I rarely told her no. I negotiated, I apologized, I compromised, but I almost never refused. Until now. "You're embarrassing me," she whispered. I laughed softly. The irony was incredible. 3 days earlier, she hadn't cared about embarrassing Lily. Now, she was worried about herself. "Goodbye, Mom." I turned and started walking toward the elevators. Then she said something that stopped me. "Your father could lose the house." I froze. Not because I felt guilty, because suddenly everything made sense. Every phone call, every apology, every dramatic tear. This wasn't about family. This was about survival. Their survival. I slowly turned around. "What did you say?" Her face fell. She realized she'd said too much, but it was already too late. Nothing. No. I stepped closer. "What house?"
For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she looked away. That was all the answer I needed. That night, I made a few phone calls. By midnight, I had uncovered the truth. My parents were drowning in debt, far worse than anyone knew. Their mortgage payments were months behind. Credit cards were maxed out. Several loans had gone into default. Collection agencies were calling daily. And according to public records, foreclosure proceedings had already started. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the documents. Everything suddenly clicked into place.
For the next several weeks, the calls slowed down. Then, they stopped completely. No angry messages, no guilt trips, no dramatic speeches about family loyalty. Just silence. And honestly, the silence felt peaceful. For years, my life had been filled with constant pressure. Someone always needed something. Someone always had a crisis. Someone always expected me to fix a problem I didn't create. Without that noise, my home felt different. Lighter, safer, happier. Most importantly, Lily seemed happier too. One Saturday morning, we were making pancakes together when she suddenly asked a question. Mom? Yeah? Are we still a family? The question caught me off guard. I turned off the stove and looked at her. Of course we are. She hesitated. But Grandma says family stays together, no matter what. I smiled sadly. That sounded exactly like something my mother would say. The problem was that she only believed it when it benefited her. I sat beside Lily. Real family doesn't hurt you and expect you to accept it forever. She listened carefully. Real family respects boundaries. I brushed a strand of hair from her face. And real family makes you feel loved, not obligated. For a moment, she thought about that. Then she nodded, as if something finally made sense. A month later, I received a letter. Not a text, not a voicemail, an actual handwritten letter. From my mother. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won, so I opened it. The first page was exactly what I expected. Excuses, justifications,